More changes happening with Michigan football as Shawn McGee, the general manager, is out. Why I do not like this move right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. We are back in doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers who watch and listen to the show every single day. And big thank you as well for making us your first listen. We are changing course from what the plan was. The plan today was to do a mailbag. I put out the bat signal. Y'all ask questions, but we're gonna pivot to this breaking news today. First, we're gonna go into Michigan and General Manager Sean McGee parting ways. Then we'll get more into some of the behind-the-scenes scuttlebutt that is kind of happening, and then we'll finally talk about the defensive line hire that Michigan made over the weekend of Larry Black. That has not even been officially announced. It's been reported and it's out there. So, all right. Energy drink is starting to kick in here. So Michigan parts ways with Shawn McGee, general manager. He has been around for a while, right? Like he came, I can't remember the exact year he came in. What was it, like 20? I think it might have been 2017. It was 2016, but it was in that era, right? Because I remember having conversations with him about Hassan Haskins and the strategy of getting Hassan Haskins. And I know you probably are sitting there thinking, like, what do you mean strategy? He was a 3-star out of freaking Eureka, Missouri. Well, yeah, but they saw what he could be and what he ended up being. And they were like, no one knows about this dude. We don't want anyone else to know about this dude. Now, things went a little bit different than like what the strategy was. It was like, keep him on the low. Don't, kind of try to wait till you get closer to signing day. That type of stuff didn't work out that way. Nope. I think he was committed within a week. But they were slow jamming the news. They weren't really trying to offer him really quickly. So he's been around for a while. And then he was around through, I believe, 2021. And then in 2022 and 23, he was out. Sharon Moore gets hired. He brings him back. And in those 2 years that McGee was away, he learned a lot of like kind of just really smart allocation and things of that nature with NIL and all that stuff. Because he was with the Chicago Bears for 2 years working in the front office there. So for him to come back to the college game with an NFL pedigree, that really kind of changed the game. And I think, like I mentioned, Hassan Haskins, that's old school, way back in the day. It's funny because you think about it, it's like, moves that were being made in 2017 ended up paying off dividends in 2021, right? But he was pivotal in the things that have happened since then when he returned, right? Like I do not think Michigan gets Bryce Underwood without Shawn McGee. Now, that doesn't mean like solely, right? Like Champion Circle plays a massive part and everyone involved there. Larry Ellison plays a massive part. Obviously, Sharon Moore played a massive part, right? Like he's not the only player there, but I don't think that, and it's one of those things where I'm like, if you remove any of those elements, they probably don't get him, right? So that is one thing. But I want to, here's why I don't like this move in particular. It's because I do not think that Michigan is in good standing right now with all of the changes. And when I say good standing, I mean, I think as Michigan fans are not sitting there being like, we're screwed next year. Like what players are we supposed to put out there? Like we lost half the team. I think that, he's not alone in this, right? Again, I'm not giving him full credit for everything. But what I am saying, I don't think they retain the roster the way they're able to. I don't think they retain the class the way they're able to without Shawn McGee. And that's more than an estimated guess, right? I'm not guessing. And I really don't think that they would be in the position that they're in if Shawn McGee, it doesn't essentially act as if hey, this job is mine forever and what have you. I do not think that this was predicated on, like, I don't think this was Sean's decision either. So I think this is Kyle Whittingham taking a look and saying, I want the program to be this, and he does not match with my philosophy for whatever reason. I don't love this for multiple reasons. And number one is obviously the fact of everything that I just kind of laid out. The roster that Kyle Whittingham is inheriting, whether it's through identification, and I understand he might want to identify different players, right? Like, that's fine. But the roster he's inheriting, whether it's identification or retention, I don't think any of that happens without Shawn McGee. So that's 1 and 2 essentially there. Number 3, I think it's good to have some of those types of people. Like, as much as like we had that discussion last week about moving on from traditions, moving on from, a lot of the old, essentially baggage that kind of keeps Michigan down. I don't count Shawn McGee, even though he was around for the majority of the last decade of Michigan football. I don't count him among that. I think that he brings a lot to the table that I think is something that, like, because you do need some through lines here and there. And I think it would have been smart to keep him as a through line, even if it's not as general manager, at least in some massive role within the department. And who knows, maybe that ends up being what ends up happening ultimately. This isn't the sounding like, oh yeah, he went and got another job or anything like that. So, I don't like that. It's kind of like you use his, keep him around, let him retain the roster, all of that, and then don't like pay it off in terms of, keeping him, right? Like, you did the work, thanks, firm handshake, and then firm handshake. I don't love that. But that's the business. I'm not going to deny that it's the business. Like, it's not like it's heartbreaking. Like, I mean, maybe for his family and for him personally. But then now, like, I guess it depends on where Michigan goes from here. I know there's a lot of wish casting. It might be, fairly, it's plausible wish casting. And, when I say plausible, I also mean possible wish casting that he brings in Courtney Morgan, who was around in 2021, pretty much again in the same role. He didn't leave Michigan on bad terms. Courtney Morgan didn't, but he left Jim Harbaugh on bad terms. Let me put it that way. So, and he's followed, was with Kalen DeBoer before, then he followed him again, and then he followed him again. So I think that that would be an interesting move, and I think it would be a very good move. What I don't really want to see is him bring in another Utah acolyte. And I know that their GM left and everything like that. I don't really want to see that, right? Like, I understand you get comfortable with your guys, but like the thing about coming to Michigan is that you have more resources, you have more things available to you. I don't want to just see it be like, well, let's just run it back, because then you just end up being Utah and Ann Arbor. And then it just becomes no different. You have opportunities to be better than that. And I want to see Kyle Whittingham take advantage of that to the fullest extent. So let's continue talking about the Michigan front office, because there's a report out. We'll see if it gets if it ends up holding true. I have some intel there, kind of might be outdated already, but we're going to discuss that here in just a moment. But before we do, this is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Just like when Michigan found itself in a battle with UCLA at halftime, it regrouped and went lights out. Just try to go so fast. The Wolverines shot 78.3% from the floor in the second half while holding the Bruins to just 26%. And it was a group effort. No one was super hot. 9 players all scored in the final 20 minutes of the 30-point win. These are the things that remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. Is that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, we're going to continue on momentarily. But before we do, ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Really wish that I would have in 2005 or 2005 or 2004, 2005. I didn't. But guess what? you could get that rectified. FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, and the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it can also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered in for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Wolverines your first listen. We do appreciate that, but you gotta delve deeper. You gotta go ad free, but even more so, gotta get into the Discord. That's where everything lives, man. I'm telling you, that's where it is. You wanted to know first about McGee being out and some other names. I added some other names to it. We're actually going to talk about that momentarily. But you would have found out first if you were in the Discord. It's a members only Discord, which means that you have to be. Not everyone can just go to it. It's not like the show where you can just tune in and partake in like 15 minutes and then suddenly it's like, oh, he just said something. Nope, you just found out right away, right there. So become a part of that conversation. Learn things early. It's only $5 a month or $50 a year, right? Like that's nothing. Check out lockedonwolverines.supercast.com or the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club. Okay, so as I said, mailbag tomorrow. If you want to know, like, if you're not in the Everydayer Club, then you probably want to know I was laughing. My screen was kind of glitching out, and I was like, I was just kind of like sitting there thinking about something at the same time, and it was just kind of like it all happened all at once. And it's just like, just a reminder, stay in the moment. That's all. That's it. Just stay in the moment. It became confusing. Just like trying to read something and your screen's glitching out. And you're thinking of something funny at the same time. All right. So another report right before we started the show, Pete Nakos, who also reported the other news about Shawn McGee, says that Sam Popper is accepting the assistant general manager job at San Diego State. If you don't know who Sam Popper is, he is the director of recruiting for Michigan. Also, very key figure in what and being able to retain, right? Like, again, it's like, it's the group effort, right? Like, I'm not giving Shawn McGee all of the credit, right? Like, I don't want anyone calling me from like inside Schembechler Hall or one of the collectives or, one of the donors being like, hey, I helped with that. No, I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying that, like, these are people who were a part of it that, you're part of it too. But I don't think that Michigan retains what they're able to retain if it wasn't, Sam Popper is part of that conversation. So I will say this. I don't know that report is 100% true. And I will say that it very well might happen. I just think that it might also be premature. We'll find out, right? But I have had conversations with about as close to the source as you can possibly get, saying like, yeah, it was before that particular report came out. It was just essentially had heard that Popper was moving on, and I was got the response of, hey, Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. So we'll see. But I think that would be another huge loss. I've also heard a rumor that Albert Karschnia, and I haven't looked to see if this was reported or not, the director of player personnel, another guy who kind of the same deal, right? Had been around for the first couple of years I covered the program, moved up the ranks, ended up going and taking the recruiting director position at Central Michigan for a few years, and then came back and became Michigan's director of recruiting initially, and then was kind of moved up through the ranks as well. I mean, again, I get if Kyle Whittingham is looking at the board and saying, I want to change things. Now, I'm told that if Sam Popper wants to stay at Michigan, that he can. So that we'll see what happens there. That's just what I'm told. But I would like to see some level of continuity, right? I understand. We had a whole show about like, screw your traditions, man. Move on. And right, like, I don't know how well that was received. But at the same time, like, I want to see some level of continuity here. I want to see some level of like, okay, these are the people that understand because you have to understand Michigan has constraints that, you know, Whittingham and people don't necessarily know, right? We saw how that worked out with the pursuit, particularly of Cade Olave, right? I don't think, based off of the intel that I have, when it comes to the linebacker transfer portal recruiting, that they really liked Rasheem Biles the way that we all did. Okay, it is my strong opinion that they passed on Rasheem Biles, which is why he ended up elsewhere. Now, Cade Olave is a different story. I believe that he was the top of board, and I understand they went after him anyway. Didn't work out that way. And the people that I'm talking about were still in the building. Okay. But that's kind of the thing is there's a lot of constraints that come with Michigan in particular that I feel like I don't want to see a bunch of outsiders come in and then just find yourself kind of pantsed. Now, Dusty May managed to be an outsider, didn't retain. You know, he could have come and said like, "Hey, Saudi Washington, you're good. You stick around." Like, he didn't do that, right? Like, he brought his own staff. I understand that if you're, you got to do what you got to do for your program. A little different in basketball and football. Football, you're just managing so many more people. The staffs are just way bigger, right? Like, you've got a mini corporation there. I just want some of the people that matter in the behind the scenes more than anything to be people that at least understand a bit how the organization runs. But at the same time, I do think you also have to clean house to some degree to get rid of kind of the brain rot. Okay, so like it's kind of a catch-22 in some ways. And the reason why, like, oh, okay, well, you want to get rid of the brain rot, but so you should be kind of for this. I don't think that the people that are supposedly leaving today were a part of it. I think they were part of the solution. I wanted to see them work in conjunction with what was about to happen with what Kyle Whittingham was bringing to the table. So with that, yeah, I'm kind of, I'm not pissed or anything like that, but I'm disheartened. I don't want to see these guys go. And I'm sure it's a little bit more, bias as well from me, right? Like, these are people I have known for over a decade. All three of the people mentioned here. So we'll see what happens. But, I was told about an hour ago, right now when I'm speaking, so that puts me at about 12:30. I think the report came out around 12:45 that Sam Popper was leaving for another job. I was told, hey, not so fast. So, I mean, we'll see. That doesn't mean, that maybe it ended up happening 15 minutes later, right? Like, I don't know that. I haven't gotten confirmation on that. But I would love to see these people stay. I think these are this department has grown to be very, very good. And they've been able to create, we've seen that they can do it. We've seen that they can build a vision between recruiting, the transfer portal. We've seen that they can execute said vision. They have, they're getting the 5 stars in, right? Like, we've seen that they've been able to build a roster. Now, Kyle Whittingham's been able to do the same thing, but not with the 5 stars as much. Yes, he had Celeste Moa. Every now and again, he gets 5 stars, but, he doesn't usually get the 1 per class that Michigan gets. So that's where I just would like to see some continuity, because I felt like the trajectory was going up and up and up and up. And I just think it maybe changes a little bit. All right, let's talk about the hire that Michigan did make, because now we don't, now we're going to have to learn some new hires. Some of us are going to have to get some new sources. That tells you anything. All right. Let's continue on. Let's talk about the hire of Larry Black. We're going to have to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open when the pressure's on and you need the right hire. This is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who do all of that. There's less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 credit. That's right. $75 on Sponsored Jobs to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, Michigan hired Larry Black, brother of Jabril Black, former Michigan defensive tackle. Didn't know that when I first wrote the article. I had to make an addendum. And, you know, you probably sitting there like, wait, what? You didn't, like... Just think of, I think you should leave the scene with Tim Robinson where he doesn't know how to drive. And he responds like, not everyone knows how to do everything. That's my response to that. I think in references to things all the time. It's how my brain works. And if you can make an I think you should leave reference, especially because, okay, quick tangent, very quick tangent. If you didn't know this, I mean, you probably like have seen, you know, or know about the show Detroiters, which, you know, Jim Harbaugh was on. And that's Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson's show. I mean, I knew them when I was at Michigan because there was a place called the Improv Inferno on Main Street. And I took improv classes there. That's how I met one of my really good friends, Phil Ranta. I made a lot of other friends there as well. Yeah, it was Tim Robinson was part of a group called Eye Candy. Some other guys I love, PJ Jacokes and Chris D'Angelo. He was wild and crazy. Even that you just knew like things were to go off the deep end. And then Sam Richardson was first ever scene I did improv in front of people, in front of a live audience. It was in a scene with Sam Richardson. I remember just like, you know, trying to play off him. I mean, I was a newbie, wasn't necessarily intimidated, but also wasn't good. Let's just be honest. I also wasn't good. All right, I digress. So originally a defensive tackle at Indiana. He's a Cincinnati native, Larry Black. He got his start at Carthage College, and then he went to Notre Dame to do the graduate assistant thing. Ended up coaching at Toledo. I don't know why I'm looking down. I can just look up. Reading off the computer compared to the teleprompter for no reason. He played pro ball for 2 years with the Bengals, and then he ended up suffering like a season-ending or career-ending injury, which is how he got into coaching to begin with. That was my ring knocking against the table. Not necessarily, we don't know much about him as a recruiter, right? Like he wasn't necessarily like a top recruiter. He did though, like I will say this, when it comes to sack leaders and stuff, Vanderbilt's second and fourth sack leaders this past year were the defensive interior. Remember, that's where he's going to be, his defensive interior, working alongside Lewis Powell, who's the edge rushers. 13 and a half of the team's 31 sacks came from the interior linemen this past year. They also had the 18th ranked pass rush this past season. That was actually 2 spots ahead of where Michigan. I didn't mean pass rush defense. I think that's good. Is that the swing for the fences higher? No, but it might be one of those ones where it's like, you know, kind of like Lou Esposito. You know, I don't think people were like going crazy, but they looked at it and said, he's put some people in the league from Central Michigan. This might be really good. I think typically you would have looked at Vanderbilt and said like, it's Vanderbilt. I know obviously when Jesse Minter got hired, the Ohio State contingent was like, LOL Vanderbilt. Oh man. But you know, I think that when you move up the ranks, you get Vanderbilt's an SEC school, but it's one of the least visible SEC schools, even though they have been very good for the past 2 seasons. So I think that the jury is out. Again, I would have liked to have seen like the swing for the fences higher. So, I don't know that I have one, but it's kind of like when Ohio State brought in Larry Johnson, right? Like that was the swing for the fences higher, and everyone's like, unfair. That's what I wanted to see. Now, this might end up being great. I'm not saying it. I think he has assembled a really good staff. I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, powerhouse staff. Maybe. I mean, I think that the pieces fit generally, but I still wanted to see that one hire. And, this was like a kind of an opportunity to get it right again. And again, I'm not saying it's not right, but this was the opportunity to have that everyone be like, okay, that's just unfair, right? Like that's just like playing with the talent Michigan has and having that coach there. And I know that's what Kyle Whittingham is in and of himself. Okay. But I would have liked to have seen him just kind of go and do that. Now, here's the good news. Larry Black, having been being the brother of someone who played at Michigan, probably helps him understand Michigan in ways that a complete outsider, like maybe say like Jason Beck or Jay Hill, doesn't. He understands the Big Ten. He played in it, played at Indiana. He understands high level competition. He coached at Vanderbilt. That means he's going up against Alabama and those types of teams and having to try to stop their attacks, which still tend to be really like that's where like having the 18th ranked rush defense is good. The SEC, while becoming increasingly more pass heavy, is certainly a more physical league. Not more physical than the Big Ten. I'm just saying it's a more physical league. It is one that does want to run the football. I mentioned Alabama. They don't really like to do that, though, at least this past year. So I think that can pay dividends. And I do think it's a good hire on paper. Is it the splash I wanted? It isn't. That's just where I'm at. And I'm just here to tell you what I think, right? Like you can think what you want to think. You can think I'm wrong. That's fine. You can think I'm right. That's fine too. You can think I'm delusional. It's probably true. But it is what it is. All right. And on that terrible disappointment, it's time to end. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll mailbag it tomorrow on Wednesday. I've already put out the call, the prompts. Feel free to keep getting your questions in. I'll lock the thread when it's time to do the show. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.